As a disclaimer, some of our episodes discuss topics that may not be fit for a younger audience. Some episodes also contain some swearing. This show was produced by the Geek Happy Network, creators of the very best in audible Oracle entertainment. If you enjoy listening to Represented, remember to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
For lack of a better word, pure sort of seed and just open yourself to all sorts of information that's coming at you and really feel deeply about things that you feel you want to be affected by and that matter to you, and then just getting exhausted.
Because you're one person.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like it had gotten to a point where sometimes I'd go and look at news stories and I'm in bed, and if it's a day when I'm free and I don't have to do work or anything like that, just like lose all energy because of how
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Represented podcast. I'm your host Nyex, and today is a special episode for many reasons, and one of them is simply because we're doing a video for the first time. So hello to all our viewers. I'm still learning how to do all this. This is very new, but hopefully today works out. And I also have a very special guest in the studio today, someone that I consider a brother to me, much like a lot of the people I have in my life. He's someone that has obviously added value in more than just being someone to have fun with. And this is my friend David Mutuku. I don't know which names you want to use, but like...
I go by everything.
Mawende. Nice.
Throw it in the mix.
Karibu, welcome to the Represented podcast.
Cheers,
first video. Sorry for the pressure, all the lights.
It's all good. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have Mawende in the studio today because aside from my love for conversations, like you're one of the people who I always can go to kind of like recalibrate my mind and like have conversations that matter to me. And I'm really grateful for that, for you being that person in my life, and especially being that person on this side of the world where it's like we've talked about it, where we don't necessarily have the same comforts we enjoy from back home in terms of family, in terms of connection, community, and all that type of stuff. So that's why I say it's a special occasion, at least for me. And we're also here to support Robert, who is aka Lucid, who was on an earlier episode of this podcast, who is performing tonight for the first time ever in Vancouver.
Yes, I.
Yeah, so like that's also really exciting. So there's a lot happening today, and I'm glad we at least have a moment to just like sit together and kind of like soak up whatever is happening around us. How are you? Welcome to Vancouver, first of all, because David lives in Victoria. But welcome to Vancouver, and like, how are you doing today?
Thanks for having me, and I'm doing well. I don't come to Vancouver often. You've done a good amount of coming to Victoria. I really appreciate you doing those trips.
Just talk closer to the mic.
Yeah. So I'm doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does doing well entail for you?
Doing well is being comfortable in this life thing. Because there's a lot of things to make you uncomfortable. And I guess finding that balance where I guess you're real with yourself and you're okay with how things are moving, or at least you feel some sense of control with it. Yeah, that's doing well for me.
Nice. So like, take us to a time when you didn't have that feeling and what that entailed, for example.
I feel like with life here, it's almost a constant thing, because it's you're applying for this and that sort of paper for this and that reason, or you're taking this and that course to further yourself somehow. Like, there's just a lot of constant movement and a sense of like, okay, I need to do this next thing, I need to do this next thing. And in that whole race, it becomes difficult to just be okay with yourself and like enjoy life a bit, like live, interact with people, like if you just need a break, like take that break, that sort of situation. And yeah, I think for a good amount of time, with school being the main factor, I just got trapped in this place where it was constant movement,
Yeah. And for like anyone who's listening, you studied in UVic in Victoria, right?
Yeah.
For all 4 years.
Yes.
What did you study?
I took recreation and health education.
Okay.
Yeah.
Explain.
So mainly what you're learning there is recreational center management.
Was this always a passion of yours?
Yeah, so for a good amount of time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. But then as a kid, I learned if you said lawyer, people wouldn't ask too many questions.
Nice, yeah.
So I started saying lawyer just so that I can get those questions out of the way.
Survival.
Yeah, then I went to high school, and in Saints I tried rugby.
I forgot to mention. Me and Mawende went to St. Mary's together. That's obviously like one of the biggest connecting factors between us. Like the fact that we went to St. Mary's together in Kenya, like I've mentioned before on this podcast, where a lot of my friends have come from too. And so shout out to all the Saints out there in the world. But yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so going into Saints, being a big rugby school, I decided I wanted to be more of a sports person. Because in primary school, I didn't find that I had too many opportunities to compete. Mainly because I was shy, but also because I felt that there were kids who are known to be really good at sports. And those are the people that school focused on to do everything.
The stars, yeah.
Yeah, so there wasn't really much of an opportunity for someone who was just aspiring.
Wishy-washy, yeah.
And then in Saints, I came and it was so well structured that anyone could fit into any sort of team. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get playing time, but at least you're going to train, you're going to become better, and more likely than not, you're going to get playing time anyways.
Yeah. That's a really special thing about our school. And like when I was talking to Noni earlier in an episode that we did with her, she was talking about, and you met Noni yesterday for the first time. It's funny how there's a small St. Mary's community now in Vancouver.
Unity.
Yeah. But like she was talking about how she was in Saints for just 4 months, but like she felt such a different sense of life there because she came from a school where like she wasn't allowed to be like kind of like herself, but she came to St. Mary's where it was a bit more like she found people who gave her like a bit more of leeway to do different things. Yeah, which is I think why Saints is so special. Yeah. And so what was Saints like for you? Because you were there just for high school, right?
Yeah.
I was there my whole life. So I feel like people who've been there their whole lives have a different relationship with St. Mary's than people who haven't been there. So what's yours?
Yeah. I'd say it was interesting. It was a very different place, and I knew that because my elder brother Mwini went to Saints earlier, and he was just finishing Form 4, so going to IB. And I was finishing Class 8, and I was trying to get into Strathmore. Yeah, because my dad really liked Strathmore. It was where academic people went and all that. So I was talking to my brother, and he was like, yo, if you want to enjoy life, Mawende, if you really want to know what life is like, you need to come to Saints.
Yeah.
And one of his close friends who was a neighbor, David Wangai, shout out Dave if you ever get to see this. He was a rugby superstar, probably still is. I think he lived in Malaysia for some time, but he was a really good guy. He was also like, yo, if you want to live a good life. If you want to go do books and just focus on books, go to Strath. Cool.
Yeah.
We understand that. But if you want to enjoy life, you want to try sports, you want to figure out arts, you want to participate in plays, musicals, that sort of thing, you need to come to Saints. It was a place to be, you know.
Yeah,
it was that promised land, that Canaan vibe.
For sure.
That was Saints.
Yeah.
And like it did not disappoint.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't focus on the books thing and ended up failing Form 4, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
But life was so good in Saints.
Yeah.
I went, tried rugby. I got hit. I was probably on the ground for like a full minute. No one seemed to notice because the game went on. And I was in so much pain I couldn't move.
Yeah.
So I stood up and I looked and I was like, no, I'll kill myself in this beach. So I didn't know how to swim.
Oh, you didn't know how to swim?
I didn't know how to swim at all.
I'm surprised because like Mawende is known for swimming, so okay.
Yeah. So I needed to find a way to kill time because my bro never wanted to go home early, so my pops would probably come pick us up at like 6.
Okay.
So I needed to fill in that time.
That extra time, yeah.
Yeah. So I decided to go to the pool and it was different because like there were the big superstars like Ngaide, Stig, Falcon, those guys. It was like we were arranged in lanes.
Yeah.
But there was enough space for everyone to just kind of come in and figure themselves out. I was in lane 1 with the class 1s and 2s.
Because you're still learning.
Yeah, and like they were really nice to me. Shout out to a guy called Jamie.
Yeah. He
Jamie.
sounds familiar. I feel like
Jamie O'Wara.
Yeah,
you remember him?
Yeah, I remember. He was in Red House.
Yeah. No. He was in yellow.
Yellow.
Yeah, he was
in
in
a
yellow.
dark kid, kind of.
Yeah.
Was he dark?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Jamie. Jamie is somewhere in the east. I forget.
Yeah, no, he was an amazing he was like the best swimmer amongst kids his age, right? Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Those are the people who are training me. Those are the people who are giving me tips on how to improve and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like listen to kids. Kids know what's
up. Yeah. That's one thing Kanye West got right. So like Saints, and then from Saints, I guess, fast forward just in terms, in the interest of time, fast forward post Saints, where did life take you once you finished high school?
So I did IB, finished that year.
Okay.
And then I had applied to UVic, and I was hoping that to start in September after I had finished IB. So I was going to chill for about 9 months or something like that, then come to school. But as luck would have it, my visa got denied.
Oh, man.
So I was chilling at home trying to figure out what to do next, but I joined a swimming club in the meantime. And then I was hoping to come in January. But then I went to apply, and on the day I was going to apply, they were like, oh, we just closed the applications for this round.
Wow.
So I go back home, I try to talk to the university again, and they were nice enough to send me another letter. So I applied the next time and finally got in. But I had spent a good amount of time at home just chilling. Yeah.
What was that time for you like? Because I remember my post IB life for me was like, that was one of the, like, it was very, very interesting time because everyone kind of didn't know. I don't think looking back, nobody knew exactly what they wanted. Yeah. But everyone said exactly what they wanted. Yeah. But it's like, no, looking back now, it's kind of like we didn't have a clue what we were doing. How do you feel about that time for you? Did you spend the time wisely in terms of learning what you wanted out of the next phase of your life, or was it kind of just like the time just passed?
I was basically trying to kill time.
Okay.
Yeah. I was in a bit of a jam because I felt like everyone else who I had finished with kind of had figured out exactly what they needed to be doing. And they seemed sure about themselves. And I was there just like trying to figure myself out. I wanted to do something that was out of the ordinary.
Which was?
Like recreation and sports-related stuff.
Yeah.
So I could feel it was a bit scary. Yeah, because everyone is looking at you and like having opinions on on your life,
Yeah.
which I guess is from that point onwards continues for the rest of your life. Everyone has an opinion about what you need to be doing and all that, but like it felt much louder because I had the time to just sit down every single day and like focus on the reality that I was not assured of a place in school. That I didn't know what I wanted to do if that didn't work out. And I guess that whole fear of, okay, it's time for me to become an adult and I'm just feeling really helpless about my situation. Yeah, so it was a bit of a scary time.
Yeah.
It helped me really evaluate what was important to me. Yeah, I thought about all the things that I could be in life, and at that point in time is when I felt like, I need to be a person I can be proud of.
That's a big, like, I think it sounds small, but it's, for me, I think of it as a big deal because I don't know, how old were you at the time?
Maybe 20. I was
20. So I was 19 when I was in that phase, and like I wasn't thinking on that level of like I wanna like myself at the very least, which is like something I feel like people take that for granted. Like the fact that I wanna be able to wake up and like myself.
Yeah.
It's like that at that age you're not even thinking that there's a possibility you might never like yourself, because like you're with your friends, everyone loves you, with your family, so like you think you love everything about what you're doing until you really look at it and you're like, oh wait, this had nothing to do with what I really like or believe in. And so like for you, once you fighting through that and then you moved to Canada eventually, what was that transition like?
It was major excitement.
Yeah.
It was,
because you finally,
oh my goodness. It was like, wow, okay, I got the visa.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, I climbed the plane. Wow, okay, I arrived in this place. And then I was living at a hostel downtown because university wasn't ready to pick me yet. So I couldn't get a place in res. And every day I'd wake up and like I'd seen McDonald's on TV.
Yeah.
So I used to go to this one Mickey D's and I ate Mickey D's for about 7 days straight.
Yeah, breakfast,
I can't
lunch,
eat it
dinner.
anymore. I can't eat most things.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll try the fries, but most things, just the smell of it from that first experience of just cramming
intense,
it. Yeah. And then like adjusting to taking care of myself, stuff like grocery shopping. I had never needed to figure out like how much money goes into groceries for me. And my pops had given me a good amount of cash, and in the first 3 weeks of being in Canada, I felt like it all just flew away.
Yeah.
And I was panicking.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, already my parents are struggling to bring me here. This amount of money, like we didn't even have a clear idea of what budgets need to look like. But to me it was like, whoa, you spent this amount of money on just yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like you can't really account for what it is that you spent it on out of the ordinary, but like it just moved.
Yep. Just on basics, man.
Yeah, so it was a lot of scary times like that. And then my parents kind of being on my back like, yo, we need to know what, like, a fixed amount of money that you need a month. And I'm just like,
it's tough.
No.
Yeah, dude, like
where do I start?
Yeah, it's that's such a like the first dollar you spend when you leave home. Because again, when I talked to Noni, she was talking about her experience of her mom told her like, when you leave, don't spend any money. And then but it came to a point where she had to, because she was really hungry in the airport. But then again, she didn't know what is what. So she overspent, and she had to like, so like there's always that orientation of just like, yo, the exchange rate is crazy over here and stuff. It's like this small, what other experiences like those can you remember of like trying to adjust to like a whole new life in that first year?
I think I was very blind to the differences between here and back home. Besides stuff like the weather. The weather will just shock you.
For sure.
Yeah. On that first day, I think it was 26th of April.
Okay.
2011.
Okay.
I remember. I walked out.
Wow, I came almost exactly a year after you.
Mm.
Yeah, because I came 27th or something of April, 2012.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So I looked outside and the sun was shining. So I thought, man, it must be a nice day. And I came out and I think I only had a t-shirt and a hoodie. And I opened the door to this place and the wind hit my face and like tears were just running down my face.
Yeah.
That was the first shocker for me.
Yeah.
And then Victoria is a small town.
Mm-hmm.
So every day looks like a weekend because of the number of people who are walking around,
Mm-hmm.
because of the fact that they're not in a hurry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of things are much chiller than
That's a
what
fact.
the Nairobi pace was like.
Yeah,
So
true.
I was trying to fit in, which is difficult, particularly because it's like there are not too many black people in
No.
Victoria.
Yeah.
So I was walking as fast as I can around the city, and I'm just noticing people are looking at me like, "What are you doing?" You know,
Yeah,
and everyone
yeah.
is just chill.
Chill, yeah.
So
That would
like,
have worked in Vancouver, but not in Victoria.
oh,
Yeah.
I was trying to fit in so hard, and it was difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are my first memories, just
Yeah.
overspending and like
Trying to fit
really
in.
trying to fit in.
Yeah. How deep did you go with fitting in? Because I know like a lot of us out there have done things we never thought we'd ever do to try and fit in, because we've always lived in a world where everything kind of accepted us.
Mm-hmm.
And like you come to a place where it's like, okay, you literally have no choice, you have to start afresh. Like, do you feel like you ever I guess, like, do you feel like it ever got to a place where you almost lost sight of like what it is you even wanted in the first place? Because I feel like that's something that happens to a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
when they try and fit in so hard. Like, because I know for me, for example, like with fitting in, let's say with like even simple stuff with how you dress or whatever, like you make small compromises like that.
Yeah.
And then like you make enough of those, and then months later you don't really recognize yourself.
Mm.
And then you're like, what am I doing? Then you have to start again, and it's like, okay, let's try this one more time. Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't find myself in spaces where I felt like that was necessary. If you spend enough time in Victoria, you'll figure out that like difference, like everyone's just really trying to be different.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, whenever I visit you guys, it's evident the culture there is so much more different.
Yeah.
People there are so much more into like and obviously like we've talked about, some people do it too much, where it's like centered in community and like more of a like a wholesome lifestyle, and some
Mhm.
people overdo it
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I felt like I was comfortable enough to be different
That's
the
good.
longer I stayed.
Yeah.
Because there's like this girl who would come on the bus every day, and she'd have like a bouquet of flowers in her hair. Like just a round ring type of thing. And she was just famous for that. Like everyone knew, oh, it's her again. And
Yeah.
like everyone would
Bouquet
be
hair
surprised and, okay, cool. She has cooler things today or whatever. Like just give their opinions, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so like there's too many cultures going on in terms of the musical crowd, in terms of like different communities, because everyone is trying to get some sort of recognition. Everyone's trying to come up with a festival to celebrate themselves. So like there's enough places to get involved, you know.
Do you like that about Victoria?
Yeah, it's good.
Mm.
I think it's good. It
Yeah.
gives you lots of options, but also you can find yourself stretched hard, because a lot of these organizations are being run on volunteer time. So everyone's really trying to corner you and be like, hey, can you come and volunteer for us for this? And it can get really exhausting. Yeah, so I guess those are the pros and cons of that sort of scene. Yeah.
And then like now, at what point did you start feeling more comfortable in Victoria? Like what year? Was it second year or end of first year? Or?
I feel somewhere in the middle of my first year, because I didn't start on the regular September date.
Mm-hmm.
I started in the summer.
Mm.
So the summer was a bit deserted, so there was a lot more space. I lived on campus for a while. I had beef with my roommates on campus, so I decided to move off campus.
Mm.
And I think we had mentioned earlier, as we were talking about how the sort of social energy that is around campus when you're living there.
Yeah,
So,
the sheltered.
Yeah, I feel like I really got to escape that whole experience. And not saying that it's a bad thing or a good thing, but I got to escape it by just living there for like a month or two in the summer. There wasn't too much going on.
Yeah.
After that, I lived off campus my whole schooling career, and in some ways I feel I wasn't as involved in terms of partying or anything like that within the school itself.
Yeah.
But then in like finding a bit of an African community where people were doing that sort of thing, I was able to do that. I was able to get involved with a lot more things that were happening off campus than on it.
Okay. And was homesickness a thing for you?
It didn't check in until towards the end of the first year. And I don't know if I can call it homesickness, but it was some sort of anxiety about kind of being left behind, or me leaving home behind. Yeah.
Could you explain that a bit more?
So I could tell that my opinions were changing in a lot of things, and I didn't know if I was going to find acceptance for the sort of things that my mind was changing about back home. And
So what are some of those things, if you don't mind sharing? You can do like the lowest hanging fruit. It doesn't have to be like...
Sure, I'm sure everyone has an idea that Canada recently legalized marijuana.
Gang.
And so my opinion on such things were changing. One, because I'd come from a society back home where it was very much like, this weed thing, if you smoke it, you're going to go mad. This weird thing, if you smoke it, you're going to be poor. You're going to be lazy, just all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And then I come to a place where it's basically university professors, people who are kind of established, people who are deep in academia and that whole sort of thing, are coming out with evidence for the benefits of this sort of thing. We had a Hempology 101 club where they would teach different things about weed and hemp. And every Wednesday at 4:20 p.m., the 420 club would meet in the middle of the school and have like a group smoking session.
Yeah.
And the people I was seeing in these sorts of groups and like just connecting with in community as I walked around, as I went to parties and stuff like that. They were not bad people.
No.
You know.
Contrary to Auntie's beliefs.
Yeah. They were good people. They were trying to do good things, like, and yeah. So my opinion about it changed. And I guess with the younger sort of group in the country, you'll find a lot of people who are in support of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's not an easy conversation to start having with your parents.
No, I mean, dude, there's so many layers to that conversation that I don't even want to entertain.
Yeah.
I already feel like we've said too much.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's so complicated being, and not just with the marijuana. It's just like when parents send us away from home, not send us, or we want to go and leave home and do stuff, and like for some reason, I think we talked about this earlier, I feel like they have this thing where they expected us to stay, like, yeah, sure, go and live a new life somewhere else with new people, new space, new everything, but come back with the same values, like exact same values, the exact same translations of those values, and just exactly how we give them to you, bring them back the same way.
Yeah.
But it's like, and then it's funny because when you go back home and you're someone who hasn't quote unquote evolved, you're judged for it. But then you go home and you've evolved, you're still judged for it. So it's like that battle has always it's always been interesting, and I think it's something that I'm not upset about it, because I've been fortunate enough to see my siblings go through it enough, and I understand why it exists. But what do you think about it? Is that something that it bothers me that it exists, but not in terms of like I think about it all the time. But does it bother you, or is it something that hinders you, or are you just kind of living with it?
Okay. First of all, big up all elder siblings, everyone who went through the fire. For the rest of us to have it a little easier, big up yourselves.
For sure.
I don't know. I feel like the more I've had the courage to open up, the more I've understood that my parents are maybe not as willing to receive the information, but they really try hard to somewhat understand where it is that I'm coming from. And for the most part are careful in how they give me feedback. Sometimes they won't tell me we disagree with what you want, but they'll send me a lot of links and stuff like that, where it's basically like, man, you're on your own with this.
You can cuss. Go ahead. You're on your own with this shit.
Like, we're not with you.
Yeah. Basically.
We understand you're trying to be an adult, but we are not with you.
We don't, It's cute and all, but yeah.
So, it's been interesting. It's been interesting in terms of figuring out that energy. And one thing, I don't know if I should expose her, but I guess we can. One thing my mom told me was like, sometimes your parents don't need to know everything about what's going on with you. Like you need to understand where they come from. And I guess this was from her own experience. It was like, you need to understand where they come from. You need to understand like what values they hold, and kind of try and give them an easy time with figuring you out. You can give them hints, but don't give them everything. Like don't stress them out.
It sounds similar to what we were talking about yesterday at the get together. Shout out to all the Kenyans out there. We were at a Mashujaa Day party with other Kenyans, and we had similar conversations. And we were talking about like giving them things in bits, like to like test them out, and like. Is that something you do actively? Like you're like, okay, I really have to give you my life in bits.
Oh yeah. But I don't know if I've been very wise with my bits. Sometimes I feel like I give them chunks.
You're not measuring properly.
No, I'm not measuring properly.
Yeah.
Like I kasirisha them and then I pull it back again and I'm like, you guys, I love you. Which is another weird thing. Like I remember as a kid, not because I was like, I can't be a man telling my mother I love her, and like I just had a lot of that kind of crap going on within me.
We all did, yeah.
And I feel like part of me being courageous enough to talk to them about things has also been because I kind of have a better idea of how to follow it up. I'm like, I'm disagreeing with you on this, but there's no love lost. And it's not coming from a place of I'm trying to disrespect you or anything. Like, this is what I'm seeing as being the truth right now.
It's all in the follow-up.
I'm trying to share it with you because, like, I want you to know where I'm at. And I think that's helped a lot. And I think my parents are happy about the fact that I'm not afraid of being imperfect in their eyes.
Okay.
And in some ways, I think it has benefited our relationship.
That's good.
Yeah.
And like in terms of career, and because that's a conversation that always comes up with parents. First of all, even before your parents, what is your plan for your life now, where you're at? Like, what is not career? I said career, but like, what is your general plan for yourself? What do you want right now?
To be happy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that simple.
Okay.
What that looks like, I don't know.
Okay.
That's the hard part. But it's just to be happy. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you have no hang-ups over how it comes and all that type of stuff just yet.
I stress about stuff. I stress about money.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I stress about stuff like papers. Like, okay, I know my work permit is ending at this time, so have I figured out what my next plan is? Am I sticking around? Am I going to have to go back home? If I have to go back home, what does that need to look like? There's those worries.
Yeah, for sure.
But then I'm also trying to enjoy life, you know?
Yeah.
And finding that balance is that state of happiness. And it's becoming more achievable.
What are the things that have made it more achievable?
Being able to switch to things that I want to do. Being able to be confident and happy in the sort of life that I'm living. So I told my pops how many hours I work a week.
Okay.
Which is maybe around 30.
Okay.
Between 25 and 30. Which is less from a Kenyan perspective.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Kenyan
and my
life.
pops is like, what are you doing with your life, man? Like, this is when you're meant to be working, maximizing
your
those
20s,
hours, you know?
Yep.
Like, this is not the time to chill. You need to be working, you know?
Yep. Work through your 20s so you can chill through your 30s. I don't know, so that you're wealthy. Yeah, I get it.
And he was stressed out about that stuff. But, like, I was like, you know what? This schedule is working for me, and whatever I'm earning, I'm kind of meeting what I need to meet. And like just being able to be confident in such small decisions. Yeah.
What are some of the things that you're passionate about, like aside from everything? Like, what is something that you wake up every day to like really get into yourself?
Okay. Yeah. So I used to work an admin job, but then I switched to being an educational assistant, helping out in classrooms, one-on-one support, and like smaller group support for classrooms. And it's just a really fun, happy vibe working with kids. Not that everything is easy and all that, no, but understanding where they come from, like how they choose to handle conflict, like how they bounce back, how every day it's like, okay, a fresh slate, and like let's move on, you know.
That I miss that about being a kid. I was thinking about that at some point, and I was like, when I would go through bad days in school, and you sleep and wake up, everything is fine the next day. Like you literally get a fresh, like it's weird, it's like magic. The next day is literally brand new. And it's like every single, like you get a new chance every day. And I really miss that, because I feel like as an adult, there's that tendency to hold on to things a lot more.
Yeah.
It's like much easier now to just latch onto things and let them weigh you down. Yeah, I feel like that's one thing I really miss about being a kid. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Yeah. So like kids, working with kids and kind of like, so you'd say that's something you're really passionate about right now?
That's something that I'm happy about doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice.
I'm trying to be a DJ.
Okay.
I try to play reggae, and I'm trying to infuse some African music in there.
Nice. So are you creating your own music?
No.
Okay.
I'm playing other people's music and trying to take credit for it.
Nice. That's the way to do it. Yeah. Nice. What have you always been into reggae ever since you were a kid, or?
In some ways, it was always around.
Okay.
Because there was we live in Eastlands, Greenie. A lot of people used to listen to reggae. There was even a neighbor of ours called Aleki.
There's always an Aleki in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I think he went by Tequila.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he had a reggae track. Ni lazima Babylon I realize.
Nice.
And from back then, man, like we used to be so proud of that guy.
Yeah.
We used to identify with that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then being in Matris, that was the music that was bumping.
Matris are matatus, for anyone out there who might not know what a matri is. Basically, a public transportation vehicle, but in Nairobi, Kenya, it's a different story because there's a whole culture surrounding it. The cars are not just simple vans, they have graffiti on it. it's like a mixture of African culture and hip hop and also some aspects of reggae depending on where you are, sound systems in it. It's like a whole thing. And if you're curious, you can just Google Matatu culture on Google. You'll see what I'm talking about. But yeah.
Shout out to Dennis Muragori. He's a guy. He's an artist in Nairobi who also does paintings and prints on Matri culture.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. Okay, so you've kind of always been around the music then? Yeah,
so just experiencing it in those places, and I think I've always wanted to be a better person. And I found that a lot of reggae songs have a message about being a better person, about like how things could change for the better and stuff like that. So it was music that I felt kind of resonated with me.
Why do you feel, what is being a better person for you?
It's being like the whole UN business on a real note, you know, wanting peace for others, wanting success for others, you know. I'm one of those guys who stupidly believes that there's enough in the world for everyone.
For everyone, yeah. I'm starting to believe that too.
But like figuring out a way to achieve it is a difficult thing, you know. But I think the best that one person can do is like try and work on themselves to be an image of that thing that they want it to be. And for the most part, that's what I'm trying.
Yeah.
I could be failing at it, but that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. No, I don't even think there's passing or failing, because like for me personally, with like how my life has been the last few months, it's kind of like, to be honest, it's all up to us as individuals, like you're saying. It's kind of like, at the end of the day, what can we really control, like as people? Like, I can only control how I treat you in the streets. I can't control what you think about, like, family and economy and all that stuff. But I can, at the very least, be like, okay, I won't step on your toes, or I can just be a little nicer to you than I usually am, or whatever, you know? So it's interesting. With that kind of a mentality, what are some of the challenges you've encountered just personally with living in a world that is not set up for that, and having that mind where it's like, I know this is my truth, but I know the world I live in does not support that truth, but I still believe in it?
In some ways it's been hard. I think the first process of it is you feeling like you have to be some very, for lack of a better word, pure sort of sieve, and just open yourself to all sorts of information that's coming at you, and really feel deeply about things that you feel you want to be affected by and that matter to you. And then just getting exhausted.
Yeah, because you're one person and you're human.
Yeah, and I feel like it had gotten to a point where sometimes I'd go and look at news stories, and I'm in bed, and if it's a day when I'm free and I don't have to do work or anything like that, just like lose all energy for the day because of how, I guess internally, I don't know how to say it in other words, but I'm sort of mourning for the state of the world.
I feel you. Yeah. I think it's unfortunate that some people are born with that sensitivity, I think. Yeah. I think some people are literally born with a sensitivity to more than just their family and friends. And it's unfortunate that like you have to kind of deal with that burden.
Yeah, so I think that was like the hardest part of it. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, and then especially again coming from like African culture and then moving to quote unquote the West, where like a lot of the things our culture is chasing are on a heightened level here. In terms of like quote unquote again development and all that, but like how do you reconcile that coming to the place where, you know, coming to the West where, you know, it's strippers, drugs, and like, you know what I mean? And people assume like you're coming from a place where It's a bit more of a humble culture. Like our capitalism hasn't hit us hard just yet. Like we're still kind of climbing that ladder.
Yeah.
And then you come here to a place where you've realized, did coming here, so I guess my question is, was coming here part of the reason you realized there's that thing, like that thing of the world that doesn't support that thought? Or do you think you'd have realized this if you stayed?
I think I realized it at home.
Okay.
But at home, I feel I was never an adult at home. What my thoughts were like was very influenced by what my parents and their friend group sort of thought about things. And as much as I tried to think for myself, it seemed more beneficial to present their thoughts to them because they'd appreciate that shit more. You know? Like you go and repeat the same thing they said and they're like, wow. This child is really...
being a good boy.
Yeah.
Being a good boy, basically.
Yeah.
That's what it is, yeah. Yeah, I can relate.
And then now being here and like seeing how things can work here and like just different things about here, you get to realize that things are not the same, you know? Like, we're lied to about a lot of things. And I'm about to get political.
It's fine. Go wherever you like to go. Yeah.
People here are able to demand services in ways that I don't feel we're able to back home. Like,
you mean systemically? Like when they raise an issue, it's taken seriously.
There's it being taken seriously, and there's like ability for them to mobilize when they don't feel heard and feel safe about mobilizing. You know, the first time I went to a protest here, I stayed on the other side of the road because I was like, yo, if you know what a protest is from a Kenyan perspective, you have to be sure that you're ready to die to participate in that thing. You know,
100%. Yeah.
Those water cannons are going to come, like those karaos are going to step on you and whoop you with their rungus and whatever,
and
you know.
Tear gas and everything.
And here, man, the cops come with you. They escort you, like from the back to the front.
Yeah.
They clear the road for you. They have to announce that, like, this is going to happen on that day. So be aware you don't pit on this road and that road because these people are trying to say something. You know, there's that going on. There was the case of like indigenous people rising up about things that are happening here and how they're being mistreated and stuff like that. And you're looking back home and you're seeing the same sort of things happening. Like people being taken out of lands that they've been in, like squatters and stuff like that. There's so much of that sort of thing happening. And there's like a lot of rich families who like just have thousands of acres of land and nothing's going on there. And there are people who have nothing and they cannot have anything. And people's houses being demolished after being approved, and like there's a lot of that stuff, you know.
And what do you think it is about Canada that why can't we do the same thing?
Let me try and blow your mind.
Okay. I'm ready.
The way I look at it, I don't feel like Canada is better than Kenya.
No, yeah, for sure.
I feel like, and peace out to everyone who's going to feel bad about this, I feel like Canada is more skilled in hiding its shit than Kenya is. You know?
Yeah.
And the stuff you get to discover and you get told about the truth, it feels very much like the same situation that happens at home. The person who's speaking the truth, because they don't have proper financial backing, they may not have the language or the knowledge of the law to present themselves in a way that the system can take them seriously. They get ignored. And back home, like we see it all over because like we're a little less concerned with hiding poverty back home in Kenya. In here, it's hidden. Man.
Everything
like,
is
people
hidden,
do not want to associate with that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like it's worse than how people treat homeless people back home. Because yes, it's the system, but then people on an individual level, I wouldn't say we're really nice, but we are cognizant.
We see them.
Yeah. We're not trying to hide them. We're not telling people like get out of here and like go on the outskirts. We don't want to know you exist.
But you know what makes me now? I have something to challenge that. Though,
okay.
Because I see where you're coming from, but I don't think it's something we do consciously. I think by virtue of our infrastructure not being able to hide anything, even with our government not being able to hide the fact that they steal billions from us using dumb methods, I think just our infrastructure hasn't reached a place where we're good at hiding anything. So like I feel like that's why we can see everything.
Yeah.
And that helps because for those people who are conscious enough to know that seeing is important, they'll take the seeing as a positive thing. But for those people who see it as a negative, there's people who don't like the fact that we see sick people, like we see poor people everywhere, like you go in Nairobi and it's so visible. So at least I feel like here it's a result of like you said, definitely the infrastructure. But at home I think it's the same thing where like we just don't have the means to hide it as well. But I still don't believe that we really value seeing everything like we do. I don't think it's a matter of necessarily valuing seeing it, but going to the extent of trying to hide it in a way where you're silencing people, you know? Because it's just like that whole freedom of speech thing. Yeah.
Back home, like, I feel someone who is considered to be insane, as much as no one is going to take them seriously, you can somewhat voice around your community. You can communicate that stuff. But I feel here there's a lot of muzzling, you know? It's like, oh, that's not a nice thing for us to see. Oh, my kids cannot see that. That stresses me out. It's like, okay, if things were to go wrong for me, people would not want to like know that I exist.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate place I feel like that's part of the mortality of being an immigrant here. You kind of have to, not have to, it's unfortunate that you have to, but I feel like dealing with the fact that it's almost like your life matters, but like it kind of matters a little less than like, you know what I mean? And it's like, especially as an immigrant, I guess like as an underprivileged person here, I'm sure it's like its own thing, but it's almost like when you're an immigrant, you should accept it because it's not your country. Yeah.
Unless you go and rescue some kid.
Oh yeah, from a building. The alarm rang, so we kind of have a few minutes left. But like, we were going somewhere that I wish we had more time to like go. But in the interest of time, like, thank you for the conversation so far. Anyway, like, I know this is like a rare occasion to have you on the Vancouver side, and like I'm always grateful whenever I visit or when you visit. That's for anyone out there. Like Mawende always takes super care of me whenever I go to Victoria. Shout out to Tish, your first lady, and yeah, I mean you guys always like take super good care of me. And if anyone back home was wondering if I'm fine, this is one of the big reasons that I'm fine and that I'll continue to be fine. And I wish you all the best with everything. And I know our conversations will continue as always. I just for anyone who's been listening to this, I hope at least you don't feel alone with some of those weird thoughts of like, yeah, no, none of this is convincing. Yeah. So, but yeah, any last words for?
I just say thanks for having me. Big up everyone who was at the party and helped put it together yesterday. That was an amazing time, and yeah, I felt really good to be able to hang out with other Kenyans. In a way that I haven't in a while. Yeah, that's awesome. Big up yourselves.
Shout out to Linda for hosting us. Linda was also on an earlier episode of the podcast, so check that out. Yeah, I mean, thank you to everyone for listening, and peace. If you'd like to be a guest on the Represented Podcast, feel free to hit up at Represented Podcast on Instagram or email us at representedpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and for more Geek Happy Network shows like the Monster Slayer's Guide to Slaying Monsters, or partner shows like the Jay and Tay Show and Book and Bitch, come give us a listen at geekhappynetwork.com or look for us on your favorite podcast app. And be sure to follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Geek Happy Network. This show is hosted and created by myself, Nyex, editing by Robert Mudhama and myself, video editing by Russ Rara, and intro music by Mick Narciso.